Today's video is sponsored by Nobility.co.uk, the leading company in selling legal titles in the United Kingdom. Get a 10% discount in any purchase by mentioning Death Row. Based on Iranian criminal laws, the age of liability for girls is 9 and for boys 15. That means that if a child commits a crime, he or she would be treated as if a 40-year-old person committed that crime. Iran's judiciary often issues death sentences for minors and executes them once they turn 18. There have been also cases where criminal offenders have been executed while they are still minors. In 2005, a 16-year-old girl was hanged in public for having what was called illegitimate sexual relations. But the most recent known case of juvenile execution was the hanging of 21-year-old Mahmoud Asgari in December 2007. Mahmoud Asgari was hanged for a rape he had allegedly committed when he was 13. He had pleaded not guilty and witnesses had reportedly retracted their testimonies. During the last year, Amnesty International recorded the execution of 5 juvenile offenders in Iran. Over the past 2 years, Iran has stepped up its overall use of the death penalty. In 2007, some 300 people were reportedly executed, an increase over the 177 known executions that took place in 2006. Iranian authorities defend their use of the death penalty by saying that it is an effective deterrent and increases security. Rights activists, who say the death penalty is a cruel punishment that breeds violence, reject that claim. Usually, executions in Iran are by hanging. But according to recent Iranian press reports, 2 men convicted of homosexual rape in Fars, southern Iran, were sentenced to death by putting them in a sack and throwing it off the top of a cliff. According to Iran's form of Islamic Sharia law, homosexuality is punishable by death and the judge can choose from 5 methods including throwing off a height and demolishing a wall on the offender, a method whose use has not been reported in the past 30 years. Sharia in Shiite Iran prescribes the death penalty for homosexual acts, but it requires 4 eyewitnesses to the event. But the Convention on the Rights of the Child, of which Iran is a signatory, forbids the execution of juveniles. Death sentences handed to children by Iranian courts are supposed to be commuted to 5 years in jail, but the Supreme Court in Tehran upheld the death sentence. Mahmoud Asgari and Ayaz Marhoni were Iranian teenagers from the province of Khorasan who were publicly hanged on July 19, 2005. They were executed after being convicted of having raped a 13-year-old boy. The case attracted international media attention and the facts of the case are heavily debated. On July 19 in the northeastern city of Mashhad, Iran, 2 teenagers, Ayaz Marhoni and Mahmoud Asgari, were put to death for a crime involving homosexual intercourse. Asgari, at least, was underage at the time of the offense. Before the execution, Marhoni and Asgari were detained for approximately 14 months and received 228 lashes each for drinking, disturbing the peace and theft. Despite appeals from the defendants' lawyers and protests by Iranian human rights activists such as Nobel laureate Shirin Ebadi, the Iranian Supreme Court upheld the verdict and sentence, which was carried out by public hanging. The hangings were first brought to international attention by the Iranian Students' News Agency, a state-controlled wire service. A brief article posted on ISNA's website on the day of the execution included 3 photographs of the youths. One depicts them blindfolded on the gallows with 2 hooded men securing nooses around their necks. In another they are visibly shaken and in tears as they are interviewed by journalists en route to the hanging. Undoubtedly these searing photographs helped focus international attention on the execution. but the text of the accompanying article remains at the center of a dispute over the nature of their crime and the role of Western gay and human rights organizations in publicizing the case. The dispute hinges on one question. Did Asgari and Marhoni engage in consensual sex? Or did they gang rape at knife point an unidentified 13-year-old boy? In 2004, 97% of all known executions took place in China, Iran, Vietnam and the United States. In the number of juvenile executions since 1990, Iran ranks second to the United States, which categorically banned the death penalty for those under 18. Meanwhile, in light of evidence from within Iran that the teenagers were convicted of rape, international human rights groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission have urged organizations to refrain from casting the incident as a gay issue. While they leave open the possibility that Marhoni and Asgari were hanged simply for engaging in consensual homosexual sex, they have emphasized that the executions are a violation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which prohibit the execution of minors. Both Sweden and the Netherlands responded to the stories around the Mashhad executions by announcing that they would immediately halt extraditions of LGBT asylum claimants to Iran. The Dutch government also announced that its Ministry of Foreign Affairs would investigate the treatment of gays and lesbians in the country. Civil rights groups in the US, United Kingdom and Russia have also called for similar policies. In March 2006, Dutch Immigration Minister Rita Verdink proposed an end to a moratorium on deporting gay asylum seekers to Iran, stating that it was now clear that there is no question of executions or death sentences based solely on the fact that a defendant is gay, adding that homosexuality was never the primary charge against people. Under parliamentary pressure, and based on evidence from groups including Human Rights Watch that torture of gays in Iran remained endemic, she was forced to extend the moratorium on deportation for a further 6 months. In late 2006, also due to lobbying from groups including Human Rights Watch, the Netherlands instituted a new policy of removing the burden of proof from Iranian LGBT refugee claimants. Thank you for watching Death Row.